Welcome to Table for 92, element number 37, rubidium. It's number 37 because it has exactly 37 protons within its nucleus. So rubidium is found in some foods, but it really has to do with whether or not rubidium is found in the soil that the food is grown in, and rubidium has no known biological role in the body. So we're cooking up chicken Morango in honor of Napoleon I, Emperor of France. Turns out one of the highest concentrations of rubidium in the world is found on the Isle of Elba, where Napoleon was first exiled in 1814 for 11 months before escaping and eventually being defeated at Waterloo. Napoleon was apparently not huge on food, strange for a Frenchman, but he apparently did like chicken to a point that palace chefs constantly had roasted chickens cooking just in case he got hungry at some random time. It's kind of like having a Costco rotisserie in your basement. So the myth goes chicken Morango was invented by one of Napoleon's personal chefs, a fellow by the name of Dunant. Right before the Battle of Morango, the wagon supplies hadn't reached the front where Napoleon was, so Dunant had to forage local ingredients to create a dish. He came back with garlic, tomatoes, eggs, chickens, herbs, crayfish, and bread for croutons. And the myth continues, Napoleon, who was famously disinterested in food, seemed to really love Dunant's creation. Went on to win the Battle of Morango, and Napoleon demanded he be served chicken Morango before every battle, until Waterloo, when crayfish weren't available, which of course is the real reason he lost the battle, lack of crayfish. Nothing to do with the early arrival of the Prussians or the French cavalry attacking impenetrable squares of British soldiers. So it was because Napoleon didn't have his pre-battle snack. Yeah, definitely not a true story, but it's a good one nonetheless. There's also a version of this story that states that chicken Morango was created after the battle, as the Austrian army, while defeated, had captured the French supply train and all their food. And so Dunant foraged the ingredients. And finally, there's a version that chicken Morango was not actually invented at the battle, but rather by a French chef back in Paris to celebrate the great victory. There's a lot of debate about the original recipe that Dunant created. He didn't seem to write it down. The earliest recipe we have is from 1890 and doesn't have tomatoes or crayfish, but I'm gonna go with the more legendary version of the recipe. So to make the chicken stock, I'm just gonna add the chicken scraps to a hot pan with olive oil, brown on both sides, add water, reduce, then remove the chicken and set it aside for later. There you go, a nice battlefield chicken stock. Because Dunant had no butter on hand and it takes a really long time to roast a chicken whole, he decided to fry the chicken pieces first. So in the same pan, place chicken parts in, season with salt and pepper, probably the only spices Dunant would have had at the time. Take the pan off the direct fire to reduce the heat, then toss some chopped garlic, deglaze with cognac, trying not to burn down the whole set. I like to think Dunant raided Napoleon's personal liquor cabinet for this, but who knows. Now add that nice chicken stock and put the pan back over the fire and reduce. Add chopped tomatoes and put the chicken back in, then add crayfish and cook until the chicken and the crayfish are done. Alright, so rubidium was discovered by the German chemist Gustav Kirchhoff and Robert Bunsen. Yes, the guy who invented the Bunsen burner. He rocked an amazing neckbeard, by the way. And in 1861, Kirchhoff and Bunsen used a spectroscope, which allowed them to identify the atomic spectrum off just a few grams of metal salts concentrated from 180 kilograms of the mineral lepidolite. This actually led to the discovery of cesium first. It came up as a bright blue line on the spectrum. Later, they found a bright red line that they determined to be an unknown substance. The name rubidium comes from the Latin rubidus, a word for the darkest red color, kind of like related to the rust color. Rubidium is an alkali metal, which means in a pure form, it is really, really dangerous. Any of the alkali metals will explode when exposed to water. Again, rubidium is not thought to have any biological role in the human body, but there's still ongoing research about that. Because of rubidium's close proximity to potassium, just below it on the alkali metals row, it may have some of the same functions as potassium, but we're not too sure about that. Rubidium is not nearly as abundant as potassium. However, rubidium does have some uses. It's used in fireworks and ceramics, giving them a purple color. Rubidium has a sole external electron that makes it easy to bind with nearly all other elements, and it has a particularly strong bond, making it very difficult to extract into a pure state. Therefore, rubidium is very expensive, and part of the reason it's not used in a whole lot of industries. And add one fried egg because, it makes everything better. there you have it, chicken Morango, because the island of Elba has a very large concentration of rubidium, which, let's be honest, Elba would not be a world-famous island if Napoleon was never exiled there. Yeah, fit for an emperor. Too bad they didn't have crayfish at Waterloo. Thank you. See you next time. If you like the periodic table of elements, please hit that subscribe button.